Sahana vavatu Sahana bhunaktu Sahaviryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Lord protect us. May He nourish us. May we acquire the capacity to study and understand the scriptures. May our study be brilliant and may we not cavil at each other. Om, peace, peace, peace unto us all. Dear brothers and sisters, loving Sai Ram to all of you. We welcome all of you for the online satsang of Sri Sathya Sai Baba Center of Arcadia. So now we are doing the study circle on Sutra Vahini, and we are in the second sutra, Janmadasya Yataha. So always in scriptures, always there is a continuity. You should remember what we have done before to connect to what we are doing now. So we are going to start on page 21 in the PDF we have in the soft copy which you received, which you can go and look at it. But in the hard copies, it is different pages in different books. The one I have in front of me is page 37. Anupam, who is reading this, is at 27. Some places 21. So just as far as the soft copy you have, page 21. But it is the second chapter, second sutra, and it's the last part of the discussion, which talks about the never-changing quality of Godhead. And even the subtitles are not there in some books. Some books have the titles. So just remember when you are reading, so just focus on that never-changing quality of Godhead. That is where we'll start today. So just I want to, just as I said, this is what we are going through is Brahma Vidya. They say, oh, anything, oh, this is not Brahma Vidya. They said, what is it? This is not atomic science or something. Similarly, in spirituality, whenever the highest, they say, this is not any Brahma Vidya. That means that is the most difficult, because the ultimate, knowing which there is nothing more to be known. And this Brahma Vidya is knowledge of Brahman. And it is there in all Shrutis, like Puranas and other texts, but much more on these particular guides, the texts of Brahma Vidya, they are Brahma Sutras, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita. These through, actually in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, each Brahma Vidya, Su, Upanishads, so every time he says at the end of each chapter. So this is the Brahma Vidya. So we want always, like you want to get a PhD or you want to get a doctor's, everybody wants to do that, but you need to even go to qualify. You want to get a medical school. I know my grandson was, you have to go to MCAT and go to good university for law school, LSAT, and everything, these credentials, even for regular degrees. Now we are talking about the highest Brahma Vidya, after which there is nothing else. For everything else, you do MD, then there is PhD, then you have further training. But here, after attaining which, nothing more to attain. Yam labdvacha aparam labam, that is the highest. That is why this is called Paravidya in contrast to Aparavidya, which is we learned the physics, chemistry, biology, nuclear physics, astronomy. All these are relative to Aparavidya, where there is a beginning and end, always there is more to learn. Here there is the last thing. This is where the knowledge ends. This is the highest. So for that, if you want to aim high, you need to have preparation. You need to have credentials. That is what the first things, the first sutta was talked about. Athato Brahma Jijnasa. So after this, you will have the qualification to know Brahman. So first we need to say whether we acquired all the things. That is why you go on repeating. So whether we need to develop that, we don't have it. What is the first one? Is viveka. That is discrimination, fundamental discrimination. Is this real or unreal? That means anything unreal is name and form. That is unreal. Whereas something which is real is you call asti bhati priyam or sat chit ananda or Brahman or Atman. So people get confused. Is the different? No, it is the same unchanging reality. So that is so focus on something which doesn't change, the real, and not to, first you need to know which is real, which is unreal. So by discrimination, you try to realize that is viveka, discrimination. Once you know, hey, this is unreal, this is real, next stage is vairagya. Give up that unreal thing and focus on the real. What is real? All the scriptures say God alone is real. Everything else is, the world, everything is illusory. It is not unreal, but it's illusory. You think it is so, but it is actually a Brahman. Brahman or the divinity, you are seeing as something else. Like a rope, you are seeing it as a snake. Like a lamp post, you are seeing as a ghost. Because of why? Because of darkness. In the dark, you see the rope, that is a rope, but you are seeing it as a snake. There is a lamp post, you are seeing a ghost. It is never was there. So that is why the ignorant man says, oh, I want to have liberation. This is why Swami was telling giving a message to one great Vedantic scholar. He says, Swami, so I want to be liberated. He's a great scholar, Ram Sharma. He was talking in front of Swami. What do you want? Liberation. He says, Swami says, when were we bound to be liberated? So the thinking that we are bound, it itself is a ignorance. That is what the whole thing is. That is called Ajatavada. The Shankaracharya's guru's guru, Gaudapada. Shankaracharya's guru is Govindapada. His guru is Gaudapada. He said, this whole thing is a dream. You are imagining you are born. So it is difficult till you experience. And it is difficult to imagine that you are living and you are dying. So the whole thing is like in a dream. It comes and goes. So this is what it is called. This is really nothing happens. What all exists is Brahman. So we need to have that experience. So for that, the first is Viveka, and then give up. The next is Vairagya. Give up what is unreal, go to the real, like Lord Buddha did. He left his kingdom, and he left his beautiful family, and all his power and glory, and everything he left in search of the truth. All the great kings in the old times, if you read our scriptures, they went in quest of the truth. In that case, they gave up this thing. Not that you should give up your responsibilities, but when time comes, you should go in the search of the highest. That is the greatest duty. So you give up. So you all the Lord Buddha, there are many kings who have come and gone, but he is remembered because he gave up the unreal to search for the real, and the truth he has spread to all people. So that is next stage, Vairagya. But to get these things, you need certain qualifications. We said Shama, Damadi, Shat Sampati. First is Shama, that is control of the mind, because that is a problem with the bondage. Next is Dhamma, that is control of the body, mind, and body and senses, because they are the one who distract us. So that is Dhamma. And third is Uparati, withdrawal from the outside. Always our mind is going, I want to go here, I want to go do this, I want, always restless, agitated. So need to withdraw. That is why everybody is prescribed some silent sitting. A spiritual seeker, daily, at least for some time, silent sitting. And even Sri Ramakrishna used to recommend, even for householders, a time, now and then you should take time for solitude. Go to some quiet place for a week or a few days, just by yourself to see your relations with the ultimate. Just inquire, because in the depth of silence only, you can hear the voice of God. So that is the thing, Uparati, withdrawal. Then next comes Titisha, that is forbearance, fortitude, Sahana. That is why even Shidi Baba used to say Nishta and Saburi. We all have to have that, because in life there are so many challenges. There is nobody without challenges. That is a part of life. That's why Lord Krishna said, Anityam asukham lokam or dukkhalayam ashashvatam. But how do you face these challenges? You do with forbearance. The forbearance like a tree, just not to be easily shaken up. As you practice this fortitude, so even the major troubles won't kill. That is the difference between the, like in physical strength, when you are doing fighting, you go boxing, you do physical exercise, muscle lifting. Anyway, I'm poor in that. I'm not good in physical things. You lift weights, you run, that develop your muscles, right? How you go on straining. Similarly, in spirituality, these challenges, these troubles make us strong. So in the beginning, you get fluctuated, your mind gets agitated, disturbed. As you progress more and more, the proof is you'll get peace in difficulties. That is why it's beautifully said, spirituality is not immunity from difficulties. Not because you are even a saint, you will have problems, you will have difficulties, but you will have peace in difficulties. That is the beauty of that. You go on practicing this forbearance, you will have that peace. So how is the proof you are spiritually progressing? They says proof of rain. Somebody says there is rain. How do you know? There is wetness in the ground. Similarly, the proof that we are progressing spiritually is that peace, that calmness, that stage where we have maintained. That means we ourselves know, okay, that is, I am there. So that is very important. So that is next quality is that titiksha. Then shraddha, faith. We should have complete faith. What we are reading right now, Atato Brahma Jijnasa Janmadasya, we should believe, oh, it is some scripture, something not. We should have faith in the scripture because they're the word of God. Faith in God and faith in ourselves. Yes, I am divine. I will achieve in this very lifetime. I have come in contact with an avatar. I have seen him, I have heard him and experienced his love. So we should have that shraddha, that faith, absolute faith that we can reach the goal. That is that. And then more, finally is samadhana, wherein you see that in the stage of equanimity, everything is pervaded by the divine. So these are the qualifications we should go on remembering. We should develop these set sampatti, 6 qualities. So once we have viveka and vairagya and these 6 qualities, then the last is most important, mumukshatva. That intense desire, intense longing for God, that hunger for God, that is very important. Automatically, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, once you have that, automatically your goal is assured. Because you have so much, you're always thinking about that, how to reach this goal, how to attain that. So that hunger, intense desire for God, intense longing for God is very important. Sine qua non for a good spiritual seeker. Very important, you need to develop that. So viveka, vairagya, shamadamadi, set sampatti and mumukshita. Once you have that, then we are ready for Brahma Vidya. So in this last second thing, this is first athato Brahma Jijnasa. Next one is Janmadasya Adha. That means they're showing everything is Brahman. Everything came from Brahman, everything exists in Brahman, everything dissolves in Brahman. And we same thing, we said love is the source, love is the path, and love is the goal. This Atman, Brahman, and Omkar, these are all used interchangeably. They are all indicative of Brahman. Like in the our Sarvadharmas thing, we sing Om Tat Sat Shri Narayana to, we sing that right in the beginning. That Om Tat Sat is indicative of Brahman. Lord Krishna says in Gita, that is like Omkara itself is Brahman, Om Ityekaksharam Brahma, and Om Tat Sat is indicating of this Nirguna Nirakara Brahman. Om Tat Sat, Om that. So this is the Brahman, but we need to experience that Brahman. That is why last time we talked about, there are 2 qualities, Swarupa Lakshana, Tatastha Lakshana. Tatastha means indicative. Oh, this is how you do this, you go to Brahman. Swarupa Lakshana means to experience your Brahman. One is indicative of it, another is experience. So you can give an example. Somebody likes nice, good mango, Alfonso or Malguba, you like it. You describe, oh, it is, what is mango? Somebody, you never saw that. Oh, it is round. This looks, if you cut it, it's so crimson inside. It's so delicious. Once it is so, you have so, you get into bliss or happiness. You can go on describing that. But once person who has eaten that once, he doesn't need all that. So it is indicative. That is what that is called. This is the Tatastha Lakshana. Shows, this indicates the scriptures or the guideposts. They indicate you go this way, this way. But the people who have experienced the Swarupa Lakshana, somebody who has already ate alpha mango, he knows. You don't even, just the minute you say that, he knows. Like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he never even went to studied Vedas, Upanishad, but his very words were that of that. And same thing, Bhagavan Ramana, Nisargadatta Maharaj. They were not great scholars or pandits, but they had experience of Brahman. But there are people who are scholars, they are great philosophers, even Radha Krishnan, they are not great people, but they didn't have experience of Brahman. The people to experience Brahman, so that is nothing to do with scholarship. That is their experience. That is Swarupa Lakshana. That is what they were talking. For that, you need sincere effort and divine grace. That is what we talked about last week. So important is, everything is, last time we talked about, everything is caused by the divine will. So whatever happens, happens by God's will, and this is for our good. So there is like a formula, like even all these scriptures say that. In our thing, they say even an ant won't bite you without the will of God. Even there is a big discussion, Shirdi Sacharita, Shirdi Baba says, a scorpion, snake, nothing will bite you unless God will so. And Jesus said same thing, you can't turn a white hair into black, black into, it is already, number of hair is decided by God, and how it is decided. And even same thing in Quran, even a dry leaf from thing won't fall without the will. Dry leaf, we think it falls by itself. It won't fall without the will of Allah. And even Ramana Maharshi said, somebody said water, you mean to say divine will? Even the water just move one place to another, it's already, it is planned. The whole thing is destiny, destined to do that. But still we need to play our role, doing the effort. Divine will, divine grace, and human effort. This is where we talked about indicative signs, Tatastha Lakshana, Swarupa Lakshana. Now we are about end of this particular sutra, end of the chapter. So we'll start never changing quality of Godhead. So we'll continue there, Anupam.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. Sai Ram, brothers and sisters. We are starting with never changing quality of Godhead. If anybody has any questions, please put it in the chat or Q&A and we'll try to address it. The genuine characteristic never undergoes change. It abides in all. The form may suffer change, the name may change, times may change, the space it occupies may change, but the core of truth will never change. That core is denoted as existence, luminescence, attractiveness, asti bhati priyam in Vedanta text. The thing is, it exists. Existence is the unchanging truth. It may change its form and name in time and space, but the isness is genuine. It makes itself known as existing through the native characteristics of luminosity or capacity to attract our awareness and confer knowledge. We can know it because it has luminescence. All things we know have this innate characteristic. Each thing also has the characteristic of likability, the capacity to invoke attachment and love as a result of usability. The above three together are the nature of God. On these three as the basis, forms are constructed by the mind and names what the forms follow. But the forms and names undergo change. They are therefore designated as relative realities, Maya, temporary superimpositions on the basic truth. The Supreme Atma, the one Omni-Self, is the basis on which everything with form and name is imposed. The appearance of form and name on the real is due to the operation of the illusion, Maya principle. Name and form, which are structures raised by the mind on the basis of Brahman, are to be considered as indicative proofs for the truth on which they arise and disappear. Brahman can be known only when the basic characteristics are known. Once Brahman is known, the awareness makes the person who is aware of Brahman itself Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. This assurance is given by the sacred ancient wisdom, Shruti, the Vedas. In truth, the basis as well as the entities resting on it, the appearance and the real, are both divine and caused by Brahman. So, if this is established in one's knowledge by inquiry into Brahman, life fulfills itself. Next section. God is first, humans last. Being, spiritual wisdom, eternity. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Brahman rests on this tripod. Awareness of Brahman is awareness of truth. Knowledge of Brahman is the supreme knowledge. It is unlimited, endless. From Brahman emanated space, Akasa, the sky. From sky, air, Vayu. From air, fire, Agni. From fire, water, Jala. From water, earth, Prithvi. From the earth grew life-giving plants. From plants, food. And from food, people, humans. The process of projection happened in this sequence. Brahman first, people last. So human beings and Brahman are closely related. So this portion is what Dr. Reddy referred to during the opening introduction, that there are 5 qualities that define everything in the universe. Nothing is an exception. Asti, Bhati, Priyam, Namam, Rupam. These 5. Of these 5, the distinction that we have to make, not only in our mind but understand, is that Namam and Rupam are subject to change. We have a name and form attached to everything, but those things change. Like, for example, when we are young, our form is different. When we are older, our form is different. And sometimes, at some point, they will vanish. But the thing that to note here is that the 3 qualities we have at the beginning are inner qualities that do not vanish. So that is the nature of God, these 3 qualities together. And why is that real? Because that is the basis for everything. So here Swami is making the distinction between what is called relative reality and absolute reality. What is Maya and what is truth. And this is something that all of us need to understand for ourselves by studying the scriptures and understanding it. Because God is above senses. No senses can detect God or even prove the existence. But only faith, Shraddha, and understanding that comes from insight can do that. So as Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, the Maya is also a creation of God. But we have to overcome that by attaching ourselves to Brahman. And lastly, when we know Brahman, we become Brahman itself, which is our true nature. Everything else is temporary and subject to change. In the last section, this is a beautiful bhajan that Swami sings in his voice, one of the best bhajans I've heard, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. And this is part of the Taittiriya Upanishad, which is one of the oldest Upanishads. And these 3 qualities are innate in Brahman and innate in all of us. The only thing is that we are covered with Maya. And once we get rid of that, then we can be established in Brahman, because Swami says we are Brahman itself. In fact, I'm reminded of that beautiful study that we did during the Aradhana Mahotsavam earlier this year, when everybody was asked to repeat Devudu Nadu, God is. And this is again the same principle being looked at in a different way, that God is, and I am God. I am not different from God. Om Tat Sat, as Dr. Reddy said before. And last thing, if we remember back in 2018, when the SSSIO had a beautiful conference called Govind Conference, we had a video on this, which may be still available, where we showed how all this creation came out of Brahman, one after the other. from Brahman, Akasa first, then Vayu, then from Vayu, Agni, Agni from Jala. These are the 5 elements that came from Brahman, and lastly, humans. So humans actually have all these 5 elements in themselves. But in terms of the principle, Brahman is first and humans is last. But when the name and form vanishes, we go back to being Brahman, and that is our true nature. Sayonara.
Yeah, good. So next time somebody asks, what is the tripod of Brahman? Everybody should know. Should tell the what is the tripod of Brahman? We should say Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. So at least we should know. That is what Swami said. We know the tripod for cameras, tripod for things. Tripod for Brahman is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, which Swami emphasized many times. And this is a part of the one of the oldest part of the Vedas, Taittiriya Upanishad. And that is where he talks about the creation also. This talk from Brahman comes the Akasha, from Akasha, the Vayu, from the Vayu, the Agni, then Apaha, the water, then earth, then the plants, because we need to have food only from the plants, from that the whole creation continues. So everything is in Brahman, we know, but to experience that, that is why we always are identified with name and form, even for an avatar. And Lord Krishna himself many times said, Swami said that, Shidi Baba said, don't confine me to Shidi, don't confine me to this form. So actually he says, Avajananti mam mudham manushim tanumashritam. These mudhas, these ignorant people, dull-headed, he's scolding us. Manushim tanumashritam, they think I'm this body, I'm this man. Parambhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. I am the all-pervading reality. Don't confine me to Dwaraka, Vrindavan, Mathura, or Shirdi, or Pati, or Ayodhya, or Jerusalem, or Makkah, Medina, anything. They're all places, holy places. Parambhavam, I am the all-pervading reality, real that. As long as you go on confining me, that means you are ignorant, mudha. Another place also Gita says, Abhyaktam Vyaktimapanyam Manyante Ma Abuddhaya. One place he says you are Mudha, another place Abuddhaya, Buddhile. He says you don't have Buddhi to think that I am this. I am the all-pervading reality. That is why Lord Krishna says, Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra Sarvancha Mai Pashyati Tasyaham Na Pranashyami Sachame Na Pranashyati. Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra, who sees me everywhere. And Sarvancha Mai Pashyati, sees everything in me, he is the highest he has realized. Actually, you can talk about the example. So you see everything in him, or you see everything as him. Like Vishwarupa Sandarshanam, which he gave to Arjuna, and which even Dhritarashtra had a good chance, Hanuman and Sanjaya. That time, you see that cosmic form, is universal form. Everything is that, even the war which is happening, Bhishma died, Drona died, all the people died, the gods, goddesses, saints, sages, the bad people, good people, everything is contained in that, everything. That is where he says, Nimitta matram bhava sabya sachan. You are just an instrument. I already killed Bhishma and Drona. I'm giving you credit that as if you killed Arjuna, he's telling him. I already killed them. So he shows in his cosmic form. So seeing everything in the Lord, that is why Yomam Sarvancha Mai Pashyati, who sees everything in me. Just you imagine that Vishwa Virat Swarupam, he sees everything in that. That is the vision you get. Then you see everything as God, like Gopikas, wherever Sadha, they see a tree, they thought they're a creeper around, clouds, oh beautiful hair of Lord Krishna, like that everything. And that is the greatest recent example is that of Swami Vivekananda. He was the one in search, where is God? He went around talking to everybody, gives platform heroes, practical zeros. Those days, they have great scholars like Keshav Chandra Sen, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, many great scholars were there. We used to give talks on philosophy and metaphysics, Upanishads. After hearing everything, he used to ask, did you see God? You are talking about that. Did you see God? They didn't expect that question. They said, no. Everybody, first, after hearing, they're all great people, great saintly. Did you see God? No. The only person, then Sri Ramakrishna, when he comes, Yes. He was not giving Upanishad class. Did you see God? People said did you see God? Yes, I see you as clearly as I'm seeing you right now, and much more clearly. I even talked to her, Mother Kali. So he says, I could see her, I could talk to her. And one time Vivekananda said, you are hallucinating. Then Ramakrishna says, my God, this guy is telling he goes to Mother Kali. We fortunate in 2018, I went and we saw that Mother Kali's statue in Dakshineshwar where he did his worship. So he goes, Mother, he's telling, I'm imagining your statue. Then he puts a piece of cotton next to the nose of Mother Kali in the statue and it moves. Ah, you're breathing so like a taco. He says, you, this guy is rascal. He is trying to tell all these things to me. Yeah, Mother, you are exist like that. So that kind of experience. So he has that really the divine. He says, God exists? Yes, he exists as clearly as I see you, I see. Okay, but I don't see that. Okay, you want to see? Then he touches him. Just he touches him. Then Vivekananda was transported into that super conscious state where everything is Brahman. He sees the table is a Brahman and the vessels are Brahman. Every person who sees is Brahman, water is Brahman, everything is Brahman. He couldn't even function. He says, oh, what are you doing to me? Water, please save. I have my mother, my father. He was a young man, maybe about 18, 19 years old. So he was wanted the experience of Brahman he gave, but that is the highest bliss. Later on he recalls that, but that time he was not able because he was not ready for that yet. So he was, because you need a qualification, as credentials, whatever you want to do. You want to write a PhD thesis, you need to have the whole thing, all those Viveka, Vairagya, Mumuksha, Shapsa. So then he comes down to, please, I need to come down and be with my family. Then he brings him down. So this kind of state, that means everything you could see as Brahman. Those times what they do is they identify, sometimes may be difficult to, like Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, one time somebody was cutting the branch of a tree. He says, oh my God, somebody is cutting my shoulder, because they identify. And even Sri Ramakrishna, somebody walking on the grass, oh, somebody walking. So everything is Brahman. So sometimes it is difficult to even comprehend. So you see everything as Brahman, or see everything in him, the Lord. So both are the highest stage, realizing that what all exists is Brahman. This is, then you experience this Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. So for that you should know how this, that is why he says this is something you cannot express in words. That is why same Taittiriya Upanishad says, Yatho vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. This is something which cannot be comprehended by the mind and expressed in words. This is something we experience. That is why it is said, God is aprameya, you cannot measure. He is ameyatma. He is something which is to be experienced, not to be explained. You cannot experience. Swami says you can only experience. That is why somebody, one of the wonderful devotees, he was the controller of the university, he was asking, Swami, I don't try to, you do sometimes, because God, when he comes in the human form, he will do certain things which will be baffling for us. He is all-knowing, but sometimes he acts as if he doesn't know what is this. Little things he asks, why do you do that, Swami? Don't. Swami says, don't try to understand me. Try to experience me. That is why we should all remember that in his discourse, Swami clearly, we all need to repeat it. We forget that. Why did Swami do? Why did Krishna do that? Why did Rama kill Vali? Or why did make Krishna tell Dharmaraja tell? Nobody can understand. That is why Swami says, whoever it is, whatever his method of inquiry, even the whole humanity combines in that effort, they will not be able to understand me. They will only can experience me. So God is beyond the realm of mind and intellect. He is only in the realm of experience. And that is, can be attained only through love. That is the highest. That is the form of the Brahman, where we have, that is why these Gopikas, they were not highly scholars. Mirabai, Yet God's scholar, but the love for God. They are so absorbed in their love for God, nothing exists for them. That is the love we should try to develop. It's not, that is also a gift of God. That is why we sing Bhakti, Shraddha, Devo Bhagavan. So just give, Lord, grant me, but that is why even 108 names of Swami Bhakti Jnana Pradaya Namaha, Bhakti Jnana Pradipaya Namaha. So just, that is a gift of God, to have that love for God is the thing. So once you have that, that is why in Bhagavatam, that is called Panchama Purushartha. Four Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But this Parabhakti, this is the last one. They say they don't even care to be liberated. They want to be just have that love, pure love for God, which is love for love's sake. That is the last one. That is nothing but then you are experiencing Brahman, because that means you lost your body consciousness. You can see in Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, the Gopikas, when Lord Krishna calls by flute for the Rasa Leela, it is one of the beautiful, they dropped, somebody was eating food, they dropped the food. Somebody was massaging the feet of their husband, they drop it. And somebody was feeding their children, suckling, they leave everything. So complete that time, they complete the whole thing, they forget, but all for them is that love for Lord Krishna, like a magnet pulling. That is the thing. We need to be pulled by the love of God, wherein you forget. That is the test, whether you forget everything else for the sake of the Lord. Are you giving the priority so that you just like drop all these people? Mera, she gave up her royalty and everything in such. Same thing, Lord Buddha. So those people, if you have intense love of God, you automatically leave the unbeliever. So that is the important thing. So
we have a couple of questions, Dr. Reddy.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So the first question is from last week. After last week's session, we did not have time to address it. I love the analogy of the CPU. You mentioned the experience of God direct. Where does faith play a role, or does it play a role here?
So I think that is an example when Venkat, when he gave a talk, it was nice. Maybe I don't know whether he wants to. CPU, he was comparing. So importance of faith, right, Venkat? That is what you were talking. As I said, faith is faith in God, faith in the words of God, which are the scriptures, and faith in ourselves, which is nothing Atman, not the big, small self. We should, I'm very confident, I will hit you, that by strong, or I'm so intellectual, I'm challenging you. That is confidence in the little self. That is ego, body, mind, and intellect. The real thing, self-confidence, is in the Atman. That is why whenever you translate Sanskrit into English, you lose that. When it says self-confidence, which translates self-confidence. People think self-confidence means I'm very strong, I can hit anybody, I'm highly intellectual, I can challenge anybody, I can do that. Really, the word in Sanskrit is Atma Vishwasam. It doesn't say that. That means you have Vishwasam in your Atma. So, but you can't translate it as closest is self-confident. So the big self, so that you should have that confidence, that is what you should have. The whole secret is faith. That is why Swami says, you have faith, if you have Shwasa, should be your Vishwasa. Your Vishwasa, you should be your life breath. You should, a person who doesn't have faith is equal to dead. That is why Lord Krishna said, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. If you have faith, you attain the knowledge. You advait. What is jnanam? Advaita darshanam jnanam. Once you have complete faith, you just attain the jnana. So people, if you have doubts, always samshayatma vinashyati. The one with doubts will perish. So the whole journey, spiritual journey, they say you are a bank, it is a river of life, is like a river flowing. So this side, we have got samshayatma vinashyati. We are, oh, doubt, it just happens, Swami, take care of it, or what will happen to me, the fear, anxiety, doubt, depression. So that is all on one bank. So that, and as long as you have body consciousness, you will have doubts. That is why only ultimately the last stage, when completely your doubts will be gone, is only when you lose the body consciousness or when you have grace of God. So this, from this samshayatma vinashyasya, you travel to the other shore, which is Shraddhavan labhate. Completely, you have complete faith, you have this knowledge where you realize there is only Brahman. That is why even Shidi Baba said two things he used to coins. You asked, what was that? Nishta and Saburi. Nishta is faith, Shraddha. Shraddha and Nishta is same. Saburi is forbearance, fortitude. Our Swami also said, when to reach God, two things you need: address and stamp. Shraddha and Bhakti. There he said in the previous avatar, he said Shraddha and Saburi, Nishta and Saburi. This avatar, he said Shraddha and Bhakti. So you need to have that thing. That is the important of faith. If you have faith, you reach the goal. It is very, very important. Faith, that is why all the scriptures say that, and even all the great masters, Jesus and Quran, everything emphasizes in the faith. That is the question, right? Does you want to add anything to that, Venkat? Yeah, okay, good.
And the next question, Dr. Reddy, is Swarupa Lakshana synonymous with direct knowledge? And similarly, Tathastha Lakshana, is it indirect knowledge?
Very good. That is what it is. Somebody who gasped very well. That is called Parokshanubhuti, Aparokshanubhuti. So Paroksha means indirect knowledge. Like for example, somebody says, oh, you go to Hollywood, there is nice studios there, this and that they describe. So this is all theoretical knowledge, somebody is describing it. But when you went personally, that is called Paroksha. That means somebody told you and you say that is what it is. That is indirect knowledge. The scriptures, our guru, guide, everything is but this is aparoksha anubhuti. That means direct experience is where you went there, Hollywood, you yourself saw the place. Nobody, even somebody says, no, my God, I went there, I know what it is. Whatever you tell, I don't believe. You can directly tell them. So there is a difference between theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge. Once you have experienced Brahman, once you have experienced divinity, that is what we should have. That is why Sri Ramakrishna beautifully used to say, what is the point you go to a mango garden and go on counting how many trees, how many branches, how many leaves. I am interested to pluck the beautiful, delicious mangoes, eat and enjoy them. That's what. So you, instead of how the creation came, why God did this, why God did, just enjoy His love. Enjoy, experience His love. That gives us joy and bliss. So that is important. That is what the question is.